What's up, everyone? In this video, we're going to be talking about Snapchat stock's biggest drop ever. So the stock is down over 40% today. This is the largest drop Snapchat stock has ever experienced. So we're going to explain why this is happening and whether or not this is actually a good opportunity to scoop up Snapchat shares at a low price. So let's get right into it. So first I want to talk about why this is actually happening. So Snapchat actually filed a form with the SEC just updating everyone on what they expect their fundamentals to look like. And this is literally all they said. It was only a couple of sentences. So check this out. They said, since we issued guidance on April 21st, the macroeconomic environment has deteriorated further and faster than expected. That's not good for Snapchat, but also other companies in the business similar to Snapchat, like Facebook, Pinterest, and others. They also said, as a result, we believe it is likely that we will report revenue and adjusted EBITDA below the low end of our Q2 2022 guidance range. We remain excited about the long-term opportunity to grow our business. Our community continues to grow, and we continue to see strong engagement across Snapchat and continue to see significant opportunities to grow our average revenue per user over the long term. So long story short, they're saying that the macroeconomic events that we're seeing in the world right now are going to cause Snapchat to miss on what they were originally expecting in terms of fundamentals. So that's not good. And then we not only did we see Snapchat fall, but we also saw companies like Facebook down nearly 9%. Twitter was down around 4%. Pinterest was down around 24%. And then we saw Google down around 6%. All of these companies heavily rely on the advertising industry. That's how Snapchat especially makes a lot of their money. But since we are seeing, one, a war in Ukraine, we're also seeing rampant inflation, interest rates on the rise, and supply chain issues, it's really hurting the advertising industry right now. Because of that, Snapchat doesn't expect to achieve the same levels of revenue that they previously expected. So all in all, Snapchat stock went from highs of like $83 all the way down to lows of $13 over the past year or so. Is it worth buying? That's the multi-billion-dollar question, and that's what we're going to look at right now. So we can see that obviously ever since Snapchat IPO'd, they have had a wild ride just in the market. Originally, they IPO'd around $24 a share. They hit lows of around, you could say around $5. They popped all the way up to $83, and now they're back down to $13. With their stock price fluctuating a lot, so has their price-to-sales ratio. So let's take a look at Snapchat's fundamentals. Snapchat has done a tremendous job at growing their revenue over the past, 6 years or so. In 2015, they had an annual revenue of $58 million. In 2021, they had an annual revenue of $4.1 billion. $58 million up to $4.1 billion in 6 years or so is very, very respectable. That's awesome, or 7 years. So that's awesome, right? They're doing a great job at growing their revenue. In terms of cash flow, they are just becoming operating cash flow and free cash flow positive, which is a good sign. Their weighted shares outstanding have been increasing relatively consistently, which is not really that good of a sign. Their gross margins are around 58% and their net margins are around minus 11%. Overall, they are not a profitable company as of right now. But that can change in the future, and it's nice to see that they're finally becoming cash flow positive. Overall, they're doing a great job at growing their revenue, but is it worth buying at the current valuation? So let's take a look. I am going to use the growth calculator for this, considering Snapchat is more of a growth company and they are not profitable right now. So one of the metrics while using the growth calculator is looking at the price to sales ratio. Snapchat's price to sales ratio went from as low as 4 to as high as 77. It's been all over the place, and because of that, it's very hard to input an accurate price to sales ratio that the market will likely value Snapchat at for the future. I want to be conservative, so I'll do 3, 3.5, and 4. Snapchat has done a tremendous job at growing their revenue, like I said, but I do not expect them to grow their revenue at the same pace they have in the past for the future. For example, from 2015 to 2016, they went from $58 million in revenue up to $404 million in revenue. It is a lot easier to go from 58 million to 404 million than it is to go from 4.1 billion to 35 billion in revenue. So I expect Snapchat's revenue to increase, but not quite at the same rate it has been over the past couple years. I'm going to be very conservative, so I'm going to put 10%. And also, I would want at least a 10% return annualized by investing into Snapchat. So if that's true, I would have to pay around $8.17 for Snapchat shares in order to make it worth my investment. These are very conservative numbers in my opinion, but Snapchat is not my favorite company in the world. I can see why people would buy Snapchat given how quickly their revenue is increasing and considering the industry that they're in. They're just not really a grade A setup in my opinion. So I would not really look at Snapchat too much until it gets closer to $8.17. If it gets around that level, I would definitely consider buying, but for the time being, I'm just going to sit on the sidelines. Overall, this event with Snapchat is pretty crazy. It's not only affecting Snapchat, but it's also affecting the powerhouse companies like Facebook, Google, and many others. So it's pretty crazy. It basically had a pretty big role in the market overall falling today. So it's a crazy situation. Let me know if you guys are going to be buying the dip on Snapchat. I'm very curious to hear your thoughts. Like I said, it's not necessarily like a bad play. It's just not for me at this current valuation. So let me know what you guys think down below. Besides that, thank you so much for watching.